Hello everyone, thank you for joining us at Texas Insider. I'm Jim Cardle. We are bringing you a special little feature today over at the Craig Bucshon 1370 AM KJCE studios, where you can listen to the Craig Bucshon show every weekend on Sunday from 1 to 4. And we're thrilled and thankful to have Congressman Lamar Smith from Austin and San Antonio, the 21st Congressional District. Congressman, thanks for joining us
Jim,
today.
good to be with you and good to be with the viewers as well.
Well, your time's valuable, I know, but we want to cover a couple issues. First, the budget, and then get to your Judiciary Committee chairmanship. A lot of folks have been hearing in the last week or so, you all just last week voted on a House budget. 2 years ago, under Democrat control, there was no budget.
Right.
But tell us about this Paul Ryan budget and some of the struggles you were going through, or what the goals of your Republican leadership is.
Paul Ryan is the chairman of the Budget Committee in the House, and he is the one who sort of was the architect of our Republican budget that we did vote on, that did pass in the House just a couple of days ago.
Okay.
But as you just said, to put it in perspective, the reason we're in this fix today, at least in part, is because the Democrats, when they were in control in the last Congress, for the first time in 30 years, did not produce a budget.
It's ridiculous.
And totally irresponsible, and now we're paying a price for it. I want to compliment the Republican leadership and compliment Paul Ryan on bringing forth this budget because, frankly, it takes our dire economic situation very seriously. We're to the point now where we have doubled the nation's debt in just the last 3 years. Doubled it in 3 years.
Doubled it in 3 years.
Incredible. It took a lot for the administration to pull that off. They did so by, of course, setting record deficits, record spending. We saw the stimulus package. We saw health care. We saw everything else come along. All that did was add excessive government spending, which is a drag on the economy and puts us and future generations in debt.
And a lot of it's borrowed money.
And borrowed money, almost half of it is borrowed money. Situation today, I don't know if it's ever happened before, where the federal government is actually borrowing 42 cents for every dollar it spends. And no government can exist long borrowing 42 cents on every dollar it spends. So what we want to do with this budget that we have now passed in the House, it faces an uncertain future, of course, in the Senate because of the Democratic control of the Senate. But what it does do is to reduce federal spending by $6 trillion over the next 10 years. And it reduces the deficit by over $4 trillion in the next 10 years. It cuts the tax rate to 25% for both individuals and corporations. The reason we've done that is the corporate tax today in America is the second highest corporate tax in the entire world.
And we wonder about competitiveness.
Yeah, and we wonder why we can't compete with other countries. The personal income tax is going down to 25% as well. The reason for that is when you reduce the taxes, you encourage businesses and individuals to invest, produce more, and therefore create more jobs, which is going to stimulate the economy. So we have taken, I think, a very courageous step in putting forth this budget. Now, the administration's counter to it is to call for the highest or largest tax hike in history, more spending, does not reduce the deficit as much as we do, and that's disappointing. Certainly this administration now realizes that their policies have put us in the situation we are
And they're
today.
being very sneaky about that. I think I read last week that in their budget proposal, the administration's, there was even a gas tax increase.
Yep, they never call
Subtle.
it that. They never call it a tax increase. It's a revenue generator.
Okay.
They use all these other words, euphemisms, for what they're really trying to pull off. But they simply can't hide it anymore. We hear all these nice words from the president, and yes, we agree with the words about getting our economic house in order. But when it comes time to actually do it, the actions don't follow the words. And so the Republicans are saying, we're going to take the lead, we're going to take the initiative, and I think the American people will be with us.
So you've started it in the House. It will soon go to the Senate, or what's the timeline you anticipate from here?
Well, we're going to have to do something in the next couple of months if we're going to show that we're serious about the budget and reducing our deficit.
So it's going to be on people's news screen through the summer.
Correct.
Probably.
And it's going to be up to the Senate, which is now controlled by the Democrats, to decide to get serious about our economy as well.
Well, let's jump to the Judiciary Committee. You recently, as part of the Republican majority, the sweep of the nation, have now become chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. A huge responsibility. A lot of folks don't realize the Judiciary Committee is the second oldest in the House, but you have some things to do. Your oversight of EPA, of the Attorney General's office, and in particular with immigration. Huge impact here in Texas. Tell us some of the things you're working on there.
We have jurisdiction over Department of Justice and Homeland Security as well. We set immigration policies, and just to dwell on that for just a second, we do not have secure borders, and that is something that we're trying to correct.
We know that in Texas, but most of the rest of the nation is unaware of what's going on.
The Government Accounting Office came out a few weeks ago and said that only 44% of our border is under operational control by the United States. Less than half of our border.
And operational control is probably not real control, is it, all the time?
Real control is only about 15% of the border. And we wonder why we have the problems with human smuggling, with illegal immigration, with drug smuggling and drug traffic. It's because we don't have secure borders. So that is one of our top priorities on the Judiciary Committee. Some of the other priorities are to rein in the regulations now that are costing individuals and businesses so much money.
Huge problem.
It's a huge problem. That's why people are leaving California to come to Texas, is because we don't have the regulations here. But the United States government has been imposing all these regulations without a vote or approval of Congress. We want to rein in those regulations. We want to have some kind of tort reform passed. We passed out of the Judiciary Committee a few weeks ago. It was called medical liability reform. We want to do that because 40% of all the lawsuits filed against medical personnel, hospitals, administrators, doctors, nurses, and others, 40% of all the lawsuits filed against medical personnel are frivolous, and they cost innocent individuals their reputations, thousands of dollars. It adds to the cost of health care because physicians are forced to practice defensive medicine. That gets passed on to the consumer.
What about the legality of Obamacare? Would that be something by chance that's under your committee?
We've had hearings on that as well, and that is the constitutionality of Obamacare is within our jurisdiction. I happen to think it is unconstitutional for the first time in history for the federal government to force an individual to buy a good or service. In this case, the government is saying you have to buy this kind of health care insurance, whether you feel you need it or not. That's totally unprecedented, and I think it is unconstitutional. If the federal government can tell you to do that, why can't the federal government tell you what kind of car to buy, what kind of food to buy? And so that's why I think it's unconstitutional. It's
interesting, perilous. A lot of folks are focused on the deficit, but clearly there's civil rights issues. And Congressman, I know you're on the run here today during district and Easter work week, so I want to say thanks for coming in. I also was going to ask you, I've heard that you have a copy of James Madison. You're the keeper, your committee is keeper of the Constitution.
I consider the Judiciary Committee to be the guardian of the Constitution, and I bought an autograph of James Madison, which I have hanging on my wall. I must see it 100 times a day, and that is a constant reminder that we are the guardians of the Constitution. James Madison, of course, is known as the father of the Constitution, and so that's why I have his autograph. You're right.
Well, we appreciate you coming in. We hope you'll come back. Folks, thanks for joining us here from the Craig Bouchon 1370 studios on Sunday afternoons. I appreciate you watching and joining us. Congressman, thanks for coming in. I'm Jim Cardle for Texas Insider.